I stumbled upon the job posting by chance. It was a gray Thursday afternoon, unremarkable, the type of day that passes without requiring any attention. I was concluding our report, imbibing lukewarm coffee and procrastinating in the same manner as everyone else. Casually perusing LinkedIn, aimless. I subsequently observed it. Position available. Confidential Senior Operations Manager Organization, located in New York. I clicked out of fascination, not apprehension. However, upon reading the description, my blood froze. It was my responsibility, the exact same words, my personnel, and my obligations. The software platforms that I had personally integrated over the past year were also listed in the form of bullet points on a document. A resume of an unknown individual. The salary was less than my own, which exacerbated the situation. They were not merely substituting me, they were discreetly and inexpensively downgrading me. I gazed at the screen for a brief period. I entertained the possibility that it was an oversight, a post that is duplicated. Perhaps it had been neglected by an individual subsequent to my promotion. However, I was aware of the truth. Remember to eliminate similar in nature, not in an organization that prioritizes precision. I refreshed the page. It remains in place. The same posting, the same betrayal. I am Anna Reed. I had been for 6.5 years with Ferris and Cole. I began as a temporary employee, progressed to management, and ultimately assumed responsibility for operations during the most severe supply crisis we had ever encountered, and did not take a vacation for 4 consecutive years. I was acquainted with this organization. I experienced bleeding for it. Nevertheless, they advertised my position while I was still seated at my workstation. I printed the listing and went directly to my boss's office at 5:02 p.m. Gregory Lyman, Vice President of Operations, the 52nd. He believes that wearing loafers without socks makes him more approachable. Upon my arrival, he did not raise his head. I stated, "I require about 1 minute." Remain composed, excessively tranquil. He angered, he directed me to a chair. "What is the situation?" I moved the paper across his desk. He glanced at it, peered, and smirked. Oh, that was his words, as he tapped it with one hand. Finger. "Yes, I observed that earlier today. It is likely that there is a technical issue." He chuckled, laughing as if this were a joke. Unexpected problem. A job advertisement has been composed, polished, and published with the approval of the Human Resources Department. A mere glitch in the system. "That is correct," I stated. I grinned, just enough to cause him a faint sense of unease. These events transpire. He was already returning to his emails when he shrugged. "In any case, let's reconvene next week. A significant amount of activity is occurring." I rose from my seat. "Certainly," I replied. "I will return in a circle." He failed to perceive the alteration in my demeanor. The weight was not heard, behind those 3 sentences. Didn't observe that I hadn't sat down at all. When I got back to my workstation, I closed out all my windows except one, the one that is secure. Subsequent tone that established a direct connection between me and the external consultant. Last year, the board employed an individual to evaluate internal vulnerabilities during our accelerated expansion, enlargement. I retained his telephone number as a result of my role in preventing the company from collapsing. I was responsible for repairing the issues that Gregory had discreetly caused behind the scenes during the onboarding fiasco. I did not send an email or text message. Rather, I made a phone call. "Anna," he responded on the second call, audibly astonished. I stated that I require 5 minutes. He provided me with 15. I was unable to obtain adequate slumber that evening. I was not furious, although I was, but I had to make decisions. I am capable of quietly depart, allow them to emerge victorious, allow Gregory to substitute me with a more affordable individual, and arrange a call. It strategy. Alternatively, I could demonstrate the consequences of attempting to erase someone without realizing what they were carrying in position. I had made my decision by the following morning. I rose, took a shower, and prepared coffee. And dressed, as if I were attending a negotiation rather than a typical Friday. Confidence, gold brooch, charcoal blazer-like armor, remaining composed like a primed weapon. My phone vibrated at 7:43 a.m. Unknown. I responded to the number. "Anna, it is Elaine Hastings from the board." I did not respond promptly. She continued, "Last night I received a call regarding Gregory, regarding some discrepancies. Would you be able to arrive early?" I examined the timepiece. I was already on my way. The receptionist stood a little straighter as I entered the lobby, greater than the norm. Individuals in the elevator refrained from making eye contact. The quiet form of dread had already begun to manifest. By the time I reached the executive floor, I was certain of one thing. Gregory's malfunction was on the brink of causing the system to collapse. Entire system. And Monday was going to be enjoyable. Pleasantries were not made by Elaine Hastings. Little said, she was the type of board member who attended meetings twice a quarter. However, was aware of the precise individuals who failed to meet a deadline and who violated a budget. Therefore, I was aware of the situation when she contacted me prior to 8 a.m. It was not a social check-in. Her assistant greeted me in the lobby and directed me to the executive boardroom. "No, Greg, there is no other alternative." Elaine was the sole individual situated at the far end of the long walnut table, holding 2 folders in front of her and a laptop that is open at an acute angle. I entered the room, and she was not standing. Additionally, he refrained from smiling. "Is that all motioned for me to recline?" "Anna, I will be asking you a few inquiries, and I require your assistance to respond to them without attempting to safeguard anyone. Are you able to comprehend?" I bowed once. 2. Comprehend. She directed her laptop toward me, and a spreadsheet was open. The spreadsheet was titled Budget. Allocations, vendor payments, and incentive structures were all included. Gregory's name was highlighted on multiple occasions. She pointed at me and inquired, "Do you authorize these payments to Venmar Logistics?" I leaned in,